All right, we're gonna go to old business now, facility rental agreement.
No work on that this month, we're meeting as the Facility Advisory Council next week.
All right. Then we have district goals in front of us.
This is the
I lost my whole.
finalized version with all changes that have been discussed for the last 2 months at the committee of the whole meetings and at board meetings.
But is it okay if I ask one question? It should have been asked before, but when Pam was doing her nice eloquent coverage of the report card, I was looking at this, because you know, somebody asked a question about it and you have them in here, but why do we only include the reading and math and not the science goal in here?
When the state assesses the school, it's on the AYP and on your school report card, it's strictly just on reading and math.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you told us that before, I couldn't remember
It's
that.
okay, it gets confusing.
All right.
Okay, do I have a motion on this?
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School
Let Gary
District.
go.
I'm sorry, Gary.
Here you go.
Just want to move on.
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the district goals for 2011-2012 as presented in the November 8th, 2011 Board Agenda Packet.
Second by Dan Moon. All right. Any questions? We discussed this at the committee of the whole meeting on,
It's unchanged from then.
yeah, it was unchanged from then.
Yeah, I'm glad you can read my mind.
Okay.
My question is, we are going to be voting on a policy that has to do with the district goals.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it appropriate at that time that we will, that these goals either fit into the body or we do something general? Will we discuss that at that time, or?
Gonna be an
The board
attachment.
requested to have this on the agenda prior to the 310 policy so that we can approve these goals and then
Then we have to.
mention in the motion that the goals and objectives approved on at this board meeting.
So then we will have a different discussion on 310 and depending on how if we approve this, right?
On the policy. So this is an attachment. This here is an attachment on the policy that every year will change.
That's what I was
Yeah.
asking, because if I look at 310, there are 4 goals here. These 4 will go away, and we will insert these.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's on our.
That's why we wanted to approve these first. And
Okay,
then amend the resolution to include the goals approved on
okay,
at
and
the
numbers.
November 8th board meeting.
Okay,
All right, any other discussion? Mary Ann?
Ms. Ruska?
yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Goodchick?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes. All right, the next one up is some actions on some policy, board policies.
So what you have in front of you, first of all, 310. This is to adopt the goals that we had just approved. And it's the recommendation. The change is what was in the board packet, issue number 76, the press packet you previously received. And the reason we held that out when we approved the overall packet was to wait until we approved the goals and objectives that we approved tonight.
Okay.
We were given a sample. Are we going to take any of the language, or are we just going to swap out the 4 and put in these 4?
The 4 you're referring to is the exhibit, so that we would just put in the new exhibit.
Okay, because when I look at our goals here, it's got them listed, so we'll just say that was voted on in the meeting, right? And these 4 come out. Improved graduation rate, that comes out. Improved achievement measure, that comes out. These all come out.
Yeah, and the new attachment that we just approved will go in.
Kevin, we talked about this. Should we just change 310 to say specific goals are attached as Exhibit 310-1?
We could.
And then
Okay,
just
yeah.
attach that?
Yeah.
Would be editorially wise, it'd be easier for
Easier for Mary Ann.
managing it. and
All right, so what do you
changing
want to
in
do
the
then?
future. Change that where it says specific goals and objectives are attached as exhibit, what do we do, 3, let me look in the policy.
3:10, E1.
E1, right?
Yeah.
E1. And then this will be 3:10E1. We'll do that.
All right, does anybody have any problem with that?
And we'll eliminate the 7 bullets that are, or the
Right.
7 that are listed.
Okay.
And we're also gonna approve 631.
Yeah, we're gonna talk, that's the next one.
That's a different one. So so
All
we
right.
just need to,
Any questions on 310? That's, we're gonna make the changes, after, specific goals and objectives are attached as exhibits 3:10E1, and then we'll put that in there, and everything below that will be deleted. Okay?
the next policy, 6:31, it ends in 1 because it's one of our own policies. First read was at October 25th, Committee of the Whole. That is the minimum course enrollment, the offering of any course which on the basis of registration has fewer than 20 prospective students. The reason we use prospective, again, remember, is that's based off the registration process. Must have approval by the Board of Education each year.
Any questions on that?
When does registration go till?
Registration goes till January. So what would happen is then Pam and I, the department chairs and Pam will put together preliminary staffing. Phase 2 would then be Pam and department chairs meet with me to get approved staffing. And then I would highlight with them, and then based off of their rationale, make a determination of what courses would be put on the board agenda in February and/or March to be staffed
And how
that are
does it-
below 20.
And how does it work if the enrollment in a class falls below 20 later on before school starts in September?
Right, so that's why I'm working with Pam, and the department chair is already preparing them, that we should be we should be trying to get courses to 22, 24, so that we have some flexibility, so that we keep them from falling below 20 as much as possible. It is what I mean, that is the unique thing about staffing in education. You have the 45, 60-day rule where you need to notify teachers on their status for the next school year. You have kids sign up for classes starting in November through January. 5 kids move out of Riverside, and those 5 kids just so happen to be all signed up for that class. That number could very well fall below by the time August comes in, and there's not much you can really do with that.
If we have a class with 22, 23 students and 8 of them want to switch out of that class to another class, existing students, are we going to allow that course to go down to 22 minus 8?
Well, what we would have to look at is what are the class sizes for the rest of those in the department, and what we would possibly choose to do is collapse that course, move those students into another course, and then push that teacher into another content assignment, so that it's a balanced class size and it's a course running above 20.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
And I think, again, since we're going to vote on it today, I believe Gary was the one who suggested look at this, and it was based on a policy at Lyons Township where their number is 18. So we're already 10% higher than that. You know, at some point you got to live with it. It's better than it was before. Now Pam knows, and Kevin, you know, if they don't stay above 20, they got to come to us. And in a lot of instances, they're going to have to anyway, because if it's special ed reasons or whatever, there are going to be classes below 20 no matter what.
We've had some in-depth conversations, and she's aware that I'd like to have a cushion on all the classes so that the board doesn't have to answer questions, nor does the administration, of why classes fell below 20 come August or September. So we're putting some protocols in place to help balance it.
All right, any other questions on that?
I do have a question on 310. Because we voted, we are going to we approved the goals today, and they're going to be inserted in 310. Does that necessitate, does it now become a first reading with the insertion of the goals that were approved?
No,
We
because
said
the
it when we
reason-
did the first
Right.
reading,
Yeah.
that we were going to change it when we
We
approved the
said that,
goals.
That's why we pulled it off of that original.
But had the
pack.
goals not been approved today,
You still would have done it.
we couldn't have inserted them into this
If
policy.
the goals weren't
That's
approved, we
true.
would have had to withheld the 310.
Right.
The goals were
You're right.
approved. That's why we had 2 committee of the whole. and
Well,
we
I'm
held
just saying,
310.
because now a first reading gives the public a chance to come and comment. But today we approved those goals so that the community, if they wanted to, didn't really know what was going to be inserted in here till we just approved it now.
Well, it depends upon how much you want to lay it out. When we talked about 310 before in the first, I think we talked about it twice, said when we get the goals, we're dropping them in. We've also had several public discussions on the goals themselves.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard for somebody to say we didn't give a chance for the community to make comments. They had two different tracks to come and make comments, the policy itself and the goals that we discussed and approved.
All right, well, my biased opinion, we approved them today, so it's real clear to the community what the goals are.
And there's-
Now, we're dropping them into a policy, and we're gonna approve that, but we're not giving anybody any chance to comment before we approve it.
Okay. Anything else on 310 or 631? All right, and then we're doing first readings. Kevin, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, first readings 4:20,
We deleted 412.
and with the recommendation is that we would eliminate policy 4:12, which means it was, ending in 1-2 means it was a policy originally created by the district, not the formal board policies that the state IASB uses. And we combined both of them. The changes are in red.
So 20%.
20% fund balance. It also lays out how expenditures will be measured, the date that they will be measured.
It also states in there too that if the fund balance percentage falls below the minimum percentage, the Board of Education shall adopt the financial plan to achieve the desired level.
It is a first reading, and we talked about it, I should have thought of it, but I'm going to suggest we change the last sentence, that we start looking at it when it's like at 30% or something, not wait till we get to 20.
I was
and
gonna
put a
say,
plan
if there's
in.
wording in place, because we dropped it down to 20.
Yeah.
Is there a way that it's trending towards
Right.
20?
So it
There's to be
seems-
a way you guys can word that.
Maybe we'll put
If they
below.
set the minimum at 20, and so what this policy was saying is, okay, here's 20 as your ending fund balance, that's the minimum you need to have.
Right,
If you go below that,
but we're saying we should start looking at it before we drop below.
no, but I'm saying though right now is,
I think that'd be administrative procedure.
No. If the fund balance percentage falls below, pick a number, 30, 33%.
Right,
The
but in-
board shall adopt a plan to, because you don't
So
want to
here,
wait
here,
till
so
you're at
for
20.
example,
But the
for
date above
example,
it says June 30th is the date of measurement.
That won't change.
Right, but if we're gonna use June 30th to actually get a true financial picture of us.
understood.
In May, it could look like we're gonna fall below it, but then some accounts could come in heavier than
No,
expected.
that's not, so for example, we got a goal here of 23% this upcoming year.
Right?
We try our hardest in our budget, or our plan for budget next year, try our hardest to stay above 20, but we see that we can't do it for whatever reason. For educational reasons, we can't. So our plan comes up next year that says our budget's gonna drop to 19%. Well, that means that we now have to initiate a plan, right?
Correct.
That doesn't say,
So then
it
what we
fell,
should,
the balance actually didn't fall to 20, under 20.
Right.
But we realize that in our budget, we think we're gonna fall under 20, so that means at that point, we need to start coming up with a plan.
so what if I change it to this? If the projected fund balance for the next fiscal year falls below the, you know what I mean? So this way, because right now, here's the question.
I think
I-
that,
If you, we're gonna set a target for next year's budget at 20%.
Right,
You know what I mean? So in looking at your fund balance, your budget will dictate, you know, so all of a sudden you're gonna come up and say, I'm at 19 right now. We have to scrub somewhere and find out where we're gonna get that 1% up.
Right.
That financial plan is developed from that. So what I'd say,
But isn't the financial plan, I think we're all trying to, the financial plan is the tentative budget and the budget planning process that we put together with you so that it's not, the projected fund balance is not below 20.
Well, I had the same word. I think we're saying is, we've got to
Yeah,
look
I
at
think we're all-
projections, and we're already, even though we're going to go to 23.5, we've been working on a financial, what do we call it? Financial plan to achieve the level. You can't wait till we know it's going to drop below 20.
Right, but that's all in the budgeting process, so I don't know if that needs to be, I mean, that's
Yeah, maybe.
aligning the budgeting process to this policy is, we already know when we're bringing in PMA and we're gonna be doing this to make sure that our fund balance stays above the 20% threshold.
Well, everybody could think about it. That's why it's the first reading.
all right.
yeah.
Okay, the next one is
You helped
policy.
write that policy.
I know. When I read it again, I'm like, it needs some
You know what it
work.
was? You took that donut.
Wait, can we-
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
We
you took the
that
chocolate
Chocolate
donut.
Are we still talking about this?
Sure.
If you'd like, John.
All due respect to Tim when he wrote this, it's just still a little confusing.
Okay.
What's causing the confusion?
When you say expenditures shall be measured against, and that's theoretically, well, I guess it's explained in the second paragraph what you're doing, but it's just a comment, maybe something to think about. The other thing is, weren't we measuring this every single month in our budget report before?
It's impossible to measure, I mean, you get it in but it's kind of impossible because you only get revenues twice.
Yeah.
So you can't really, it wouldn't give you a clear snapshot because you're gonna look below, because you're pulling all the money out of the working cash for the 2 months you don't have any revenue, so your fund balance is gonna be down to zero. And then at some point, am I saying that correctly, Tim, that as we're pulling, Mr. McGinnis, as I'm pulling?
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously, during certain times of the year, your fund balance is gonna be significantly less than 20%.
Right, but theoretically, you could track it, though, right?
On a monthly basis?
Right. I mean, I thought you gave that to us before, and I noticed this month it's not there. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought previous budget reports had that number, that percentage. And I'm not sure if it's in this one.
This is, I don't know, these are the reports that were developed by the board a couple of months ago.
But my question is, can this be tracked on a monthly basis? And if it is, we should track it. And maybe that should be our policy. I mean, the year-end thing, you know what I'm saying? If this is our goal, we shouldn't be looking at it one day of the year. We should be looking at it every single board meeting in some fashion.
Well,
Like, until this point in time, we haven't received any taxes or income to generate cash to make the expenditures.
Well, yeah, if you see what you're saying, John, if you go back to the
I'm
budget
just-
report on page 1,
Yeah.
our balance of our education fund is minus $2 million right now,
Yeah.
according to that,
That's right.
because we use the working cash then, right?
Yes.
right.
So,
Okay, there's too much variance.
Hey, John, let's,
School
and
company.
here's, I think, maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. The concept is we have this budget, and we drilled Tim over and over again to make sure he's not gonna go over budget departmentally,
God, he knows that.
okay?
And if he doesn't know that, I swear to God, we've got a problem there.
And we know that ultimately, if we come in with the revenues we projected, and he doesn't go over budget departmentally, we're gonna wind up getting to that 23.
right.
How we got there with these blips of revenue, no revenue, and still having to pay people, and then get the revenue in these 2 times a year blips, we're gonna get to that 23. And to measure it along the way is not gonna be a very good number.
Okay.
I don't believe,
Not
but
usable.
that's why you manage the budget during the interim.
Right.
And that's why we're drilling him to make sure.
But Gary,
departmentally-
he can also let you know, based on tax revenue coming in, and tell me if I'm wrong on this. You know, like, okay, here's our first tax collection. Based on this in budget, we thought we were gonna get 20 million.
Well, yeah, he
Yeah,
should
we got
react,
it, you know what I
as
mean?
soon as
Yeah.
he knows things, he should bring it to our attention.
It's
that-
below this or
Yeah,
above this, and
I
you're
mean,
gonna
I
do
would
this,
assume
so-
that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We could let the policy council look at this again. I think maybe if anything, that last sentence in that second paragraph should say, in the budget developing process, a financial plan should be laid out to ensure that we do not fall below 20%, something of that nature.
That's fine.
I like that.
We'll figure something out.
And June is gonna be the month where you expend the most money.
That's right.
So.
'Cause we do all the summer
The
pays.
1/12 of the year where you expend the most money
Is the year we're measuring.
is the
That
day
day.
you're gonna then measure how much you expended versus how much cash you have on hand.
If we think back to the retreat, that's when our mediators were also, the moderators were advising us to be cautious of that fund balance goal.
But I'm hoping that with your new PMA and you
Sure.
4 guys working on it, they can figure out a way to do an accrual but analysis for us, right? Gary, you're gonna
Right.
work on them for that?
Right.
Okay,
You're gonna change
even
the
though
whole
this is
county.
even though this is a first read, I think that what everybody's been talking about is that second paragraph, the last
Right.
sentence, being able to incorporate a budget developing process. We'll work on it to get the wording up, just to be able to just say, as we're working on this budget developing process needs to be able to develop a plan that's gonna hit that. We'll come back with that, and the policy committee will work on that, right? You think, no problem, okay. All right, the next one is, policy 5:185, family medical leave.
Correct.
A
And
first read.
We need to make note, do we need to make note, just back to 4:20, that we're gonna eliminate policy 4:12?
Yeah, I think we
Right.
should.
It said it on.
It says it on.
It says it on it.
No,
It says it on, typed it on the policy. Look on the next page.
right, but I'm saying, if we adopt 4:20, should we put a notation on the bottom that says, or eliminate 4:12, or we just need to, do we need to vote at the next meeting that we're gonna officially
Eliminate.
remove it?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
585 is with the striked out changes from our current policy, to bring us up with federal law directly from our legal counsel on the implementation and board policy for Family Medical Leave Act.
Okay,
The number of this one, the,
5:185 is not on the top of this because it's straight from the attorney, so you might have to
This-
write, that's 5:185. This would be the first read of what would be entered in at 5:185.
okay, and it
And-
just goes straight.
and then currently in our board policy for this 5:185 was updated when?
1999.
1999, so.
I
we are-
don't have it in the book.
5:185?
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Are you sure that wasn't a new one?
No.
Because I don't have
I
it
got
in the
my
book.
I got my book when
I printed it out. Just
June-
went through this with.
June 8, 1999, on the website,
Right. Just went through this with all the administrators as well.
4 pages.
Right.
But I got this from Mary Ann, right? You sent me the PDF, I printed it, and I don't have a 185.
Well, he's
See if
good.
it's in order. Some of
Is
them
it-
are a lot
okay.
order.
Wait, which one?
The
It should-
policies,
Remember, we just did, the newest CD came in like August?
It's gonna be after 5:80.
it's not 185?
But it's after,
5:185.
if you find 5:80, it's
Some of them are out
after
of
that.
order.
Five,
Because 80 is less than 185. So 5:185 is after 5:80, because 80 is less than 185.
And
no,
5:1.
well, I only, 334.
Do you have a 5:170?
Okay. what-
You have to, after
okay.
5, if it's a 2-digit number, you gotta keep going until you get to the 3-digit number. How's that?
Yeah,
That's good.
Okay,
it's after
oh, okay,
5:17.
here it is, all right.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So this is the first read from the attorney. We've been working on that. This just brings us up to both federal and labor law in
And the-
regards to the Family Medical Leave Act.
Those are the only changes, those couple minor changes?
No, those are just some minor changes from a draft they gave us in 2008.
Oh, okay.
So the whole 10 page, ours is currently 4, this is like 10.
Okay.
Okay,
I guess we have a lot of reading.
So our whole one comes out, and then we put this one
We
in.
put
We have to
this one,
vote on it
This is just the
first.
first read in case
Potential.
anybody.
potentially,
Right.
because you get the first read, anybody, the
Alright.
community wants to respond to it.
And then,
We may.
just so you're all aware, pending 5:125 is still being worked on with the policy council. 6:240, we got some documents from our legal counsel. We made some minor changes. Mary Ann's adding those changes. We're gonna review them again as a policy council, and then there'll be a first read presented at the December meeting. So the policy council will first see the changes at the council meeting in December, then we'll take them to the board for a first read if we don't have any more changes, and then we wouldn't vote on that till January. So that's the projected timeline for the field trip one.
So when will we see that, at the cow?
Correct,
Let the
correct.
committee of the whole for everybody else.
November committee of the whole.
Okay, our next one is the overnight student trip, Costa Rica.
Or
Sea
Do we have to
trip.
do this
We gonna vote
resolution?
We gotta
this
vote
one?
on the two.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
3:10 and 6.
It's gotta say as amended. Want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves Board Policy 310 as amended and 631 as presented in the November 8th, 2011 Board Agenda Packet.
Second by Gary Grisham. Any other questions? Mary Ann?
Dr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes. All right, our next thing is the overnight student trip, Costa Rica Sea Turtle Ecology Program. We discussed this at the
Give me 1 second, I'll
There's one change to it.
speak on this.
Okay?
So, what you see here on your first page in your staple packet is the letter directly from the attorney, their recommendation on an educational tour like so, is that we approve that they go, but we also approve in our resolution that it includes this letter, and it acknowledges the contents of this letter, which basically says, we are not sponsoring the Sea Turtle Ecology, the district is not an official sponsor of the Sea Turtle Ecology Program to Costa Rica, and that because the district is not in any way connected with this trip, it assumes no liability relating to or arising from their students' preparation or participation in the trip.
And this is per legal counsel, right?
This is directly from legal counsel.
Okay.
So Mary Ann just put in the general draft, so you can see if the board approves the resolution, then we would enter in the data into the letter and formally have Mr. Holt send it out with his literature and information so that parents would be able to see, and we have at a public meeting, the approval of this letter for that trip.
Okay.
Liability then is through the organization they're going with? Who has the liability?
We assume no liability.
Right, the district
The
does.
rest of the world besides us, we're hoping by telling the
That's right.
parents, so, I mean,
The
it's
rest
kinda
of
hard
it-
to answer that question,
Okay,
right?
That's why we had them do this.
That's
form.
right.
We just
yeah.
wanna protect ourselves.
right.
Right.
So we don't need to know, I mean, it's just, we're not, and
A
that's it.
concerned parent would ask that question and make sure that they had right insurance.
Right.
All right, do I have a motion on this?
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the overnight student trip to Costa Rica for the Sea Turtle Ecology Program from July 16th through 24th, 2012, with the understanding that the Board of Education and the District 208 are not sponsoring this trip and assume no liability for any or all participants relating or arising from the preparation or participation in this trip, with the approximate cost of $2,795 per student as presented in the November 8th, 2011 board agenda packet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John Keane.
There's a typo, the word "to" is missing on the third line between relating and or.
Third.
So, a third line from the bottom, towards the right. Just a relating to or arising from.
Rating two, okay. Do you accept that change?
Did I put that in there?
No.
No,
Just-
I thought you were going to do it, though.
Okay, do you accept that change?
I accept it.
John?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Mary Ann?
Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Goodrich?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes. All right, the next one is curriculum proposals. Who's going to talk on that?
We should just, there shouldn't, unless you received the updated form and the one update from Pam with the one additional course fee change, otherwise it's the presentations that were presented to you at the Committee of Whole in October, just on some of the sequencing and word changes and some of that. The second thing is, I'm writing a note on the last one, excuse me for 1 second. The second thing is the course fee changes we already talked about, the sequence we talked about. You received a memo tonight, so the third bullet is the late arrival and early dismissal. This is more or less an informational item to the board. I'm not quite sure if this, the criteria, I don't think necessarily needs board approval, because this is an administrative procedure on how we would want to implement it. I think the board asked, though, in previous meetings, why the district had moved to a closed campus or a no leaving early last year philosophy. So we revisited that as a building administration with the superintendent, and we recognized that during the course selection process, in order to provide some students some flexibility, also to allow students who have a study hall near the end of their day, to give them the opportunity if they needed to leave for work reasons. The recommendation from the building administration was to keep it where it's just early release, because we've made significant effort in our data and improving tardies in school, and we're working on school attendance as one of our district goals, that it's easier to allow students to, for management purposes, just to leave early instead of having both a late arrival and early release, and then trying to manage who's to be walking in the building, who's to be leaving the building. So that's the recommendation, is that we open it up so that if kids want to study hall, they know that as a senior, they might have the option to get a study hall and leave school earlier. What we've tried to tie this to, though, is to help us with the building. I assigned the task to the principal, and she worked with their leadership team to try to identify some criteria that students would have to meet in order to qualify for this privilege, because it truly is a privilege. There's nothing in state code that says you have to be, you can get out of school early or allow kids to do that. So this is something that is a convenience and a privilege to students, and we want to make sure that kids are working towards something. If they really want to do this their senior year, they should be coming to school, staying out of trouble, being on time, and working hard to try to get good grades in their classes.
So you want us just, so late arrival, the early dismissal, you just want us as a FYI, or?
Yeah, I didn't have it in the resolution because I think it's on public record that the board wanted that opportunity to be allowed to students, and from the discussion at the committee of the whole, that we should tie it into some type of criteria. So this is more or less to acknowledge that administrative procedure has been developed so that students have the right to leave early when they're if they get a study hall and it falls at the end of their day. So they're not forced to either choose between a study hall or an elective or another course. But it also helps us work towards some district goals, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Shouldn't we vote, though, to allow for early dismissal per administrative guidelines? I mean, I think we should put it in there.
But you're talking about this for next year, right? Not this school year. Am I right, Pam?
Correct,
That's
that's
correct.
next year.
Yeah.
All of these are for next year.
So what I'm saying right now is, this could be almost like a first read if we want to bring it up again. I don't know what you want to do.
Well, I think what Laura's saying is that it should be just voted that you're acknowledging whatever the administrative comes up with, you're going to allow kids to leave early.
Yeah, if we just put allow for early dismissal per
Did the board-
administrative.
Well,
Did
go
the
ahead.
board ever approve
I did.
closing the campus?
That was before my arrival,
Yeah,
but
that was before my time, too. so.
I don't think they did.
Right, so.
I think it was a building level.
Is it appropriate? I mean, I don't know if it's even appropriate for us
We don't
to
vote
vote
on
on
the-
it, does
yeah.
it? Do we need to vote on this?
I don't think
Let's
so.
put it this way, if the board was very much against it, they would have brought it up and voted.
I mean, if it's something that counters our policy
That's-
procedure manual, then it's something, but this is something that you as the
Administrative
administrator is gonna
procedure.
decide on,
Right.
which is best for the school and best for other goals.
I agree.
That's why I didn't put it in the resolution, because I feel it's more an administrative procedure, and when I did my historical, it was not brought forward in the past.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't put it
And
in the
you're just doing the
resolution.
courtesy of bringing this forward to us,
So
that
that-
you're pondering this because we butted in 2 meetings ago and asked you about this.
Well, some people ask,
No,
like,
I
if
think-
we're truly watching staffing,
Okay.
why do we have kids taking 2 study halls, or why do we have kids taking
Okay.
7 courses?
Plus, they think we need to know when they're doing a policy shift, whether we have to vote on it or not.
I think it's just more or less to inform the board.
Okay.
I have one question, though, since you brought it to us. Is it the last bullet under early release, the student has no incidents of class cuts or unexcused absence? If they have 1 cut in 3 years, you won't let them?
No, it's just during their second semester of their junior year.
Oh, I missed, okay,
So
I
the
read
re-
it too quickly
Right.
during
Yeah,
this,
so the
okay.
intention to make it an incentive that students can achieve, we put this in the
Gotcha.
curriculum guide that's going to go live this Friday, and when they do the presentations, the counselors do the presentations to the current juniors on Monday and Tuesday of next week. They'd let them know that this is an option for them, and then they would know what they would need to do during their second semester to actually get it. So it gives them that opportunity to, have that, that clean slate for second semester.
We
Does that
do-
make sense?
We do have a policy on early dismissal, 790. Released during school hours for safety and security reasons, a prior written or oral consent of a student's custodial parent or guardian is required before students released during school hours.
Right, we have
at
a,
any time before the regular dismissal time or any time before school is otherwise officially closed and or to any person other than the custodian.
we have a sign, in part of the
It's
procedure.
the parents sign for
gonna
that,
have to sign
right?
off.
So you got that covered.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well, yeah, I think that's seen more as an attendance policy, so
Okay.
a student doesn't leave campus
Right.
without parent permission.
Parent knows the kid's gonna be getting out at 1 or
Yeah.
12,
Yeah,
if
for
they take
doctors.
5 classes earlier.
got it.
All right, do I have a motion?
Can I question, Kevin, I thought that attendance was
5 o'clock hours.
5 hours. So, really, could a student say, I don't want to be here a 7th hour and leave?
A student could be here, a student under board policy could sign up for 5 courses their senior year, and under this, they could leave at the end of their 5th hour.
Right.
That is correct.
But a student
They would have
could-
to have a lunch,
But a
5
st-
periods and a lunch on their schedule, and if they met this criteria, they could leave 6 and 7. Is that what you're asking?
Right, and so in some ways, does it need to have a policy? By us making them be here for 7 periods, we were actually against the state. They could have said, no, by the state rules, I only have to be here for 5 hours.
No, the
There's
state
a-
rules is the minimum is
Minimum.
5 o'clock
Yeah.
hours. Not
Okay.
5 hours. Minimum is 5 hours.
Okay.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion on this?
Well, I'm not,
Okay.
I'm just saying, at one point, should we put it up to a policy then if we want to? Because somebody could say that the state regulation is minimum, I only have to stay this much, I want to leave early.
There's
Right,
a lot
but-
of, the
but
state
what-
has a minimum requirement for classes. We won't let them graduate unless they meet our requirements.
Right. I think what you're asking though is, technically, there's 2 things that have to occur as it states in here.
But
Obviously,
we don't have a policy to mandate that they stay the 7, but we have a policy that says they need 22 hours. That's the difference.
Well, if you
22
if you
credits.
list all the things that kids can be disciplined for, we don't have a policy for every one of them. I mean, the administration has a lot of discretion on how they can manage the students here, and if you want to come to the school, you have to follow the rules.
Laura, I think to highlight on your question a little bit is, the school day is from 8:05 to 3:05. If a student meets this criteria their senior year, and they sign up for a study hall or 2 study halls, and they fall at the end of their day, they would be able to leave early. In the master schedule, if some of the courses they choose do not align with that, that study hall might fall in the middle, those 2 study halls could fall in the middle of their day, and they gotta be here all 7 periods.
Right.
And we clearly state that no convenience changes or moves will be
Right.
made for that.
Okay. Can we go for a motion?
What's the motion?
Just on the other two.
Yeah,
Just the
first,
other
just on
two.
The other two.
John, you wanna give?
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the number 1 title and sequence proposals. Is that right?
Yeah?
From October 25th, 2011, Committee of the Whole meeting. Number 2, course fee changes, as presented in the November 8th, 2011 Board Agenda package.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dan Moon?
There's a
And-
problem with the way it's written now,
Okay.
because it says we're adopting something that was presented to us at October 25th, and it's not included in today's board agenda packet.
What's not included?
The first one, it wasn't included,
Title and sequence.
Okay.
which is fine. There was a reason it wasn't included, because we got it
got
before,
it
it
before,
wasn't
yeah.
changed, but so we need to
But we
amend it to
presented
say.
it though, right?
No, it wasn't presented.
It was on the 25th.
Yeah, but it says in the last line, it's presented in November 8th board agenda
Okay.
package.
Okay, so what do you want to change it to? As presented to the board on November 8th?
And October 25th.
I think if we, maybe it's just the way it's typed, if we make it clear that number 2 is from November 8th and number 1 is from the 20th, is that what you meant?
Yes.
When you read it, John? You meant 2 is from the 8th? and-
Yeah, that would work.
Okay, that's what he meant.
Okay.
All right, do we have a second? Dan Moon seconded. Any other discussion? Or Ann?
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Goodchen?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Sim?
All right, and then our final
Wait,
old
he's got
business.
it. He's got a question.
Okay.
Just with regards to the early release privilege,
Yeah.
and I guess this is something for the administration to talk about, I don't know if it's appropriate for me. While these are, and I'm looking at it, you know, there's part of the reason why I think I'm probably the one that butted in on this, is because we have, I don't know, 1,100 students sitting in study halls, I think was the number, I don't know what, I forget, between juniors and seniors. 7 classes. And I can understand it's a privilege, but does this become somewhat restrictive in the eliminating a lot of individuals from the goal also of having them just stick around in study hall when there's no benefit for it? And is it going to minimize the cost savings with this type of, and I raise that for you guys to ponder, is this really going to help achieve anything with?
I think it's important. I think what you're saying is by putting in this criteria, if we come back after January 1st and find out we need to make some more reductions, you know, do we open this more, do we open that opportunity to juniors? Do we eliminate the criteria in general? I think we all understand right now that a lot of this stuff is all subject to change. You know, I've made that very clear to Pam, let's put something in place so the kids are aware of the game going into second semester of what they need to work towards. But I think it's important that we do mention publicly that once we receive these numbers from PMA and we start sitting down as a finance committee and as a group, that the numbers of classes that kids take, the number of classes offered, all the way through extracurricular, all that stuff is going to have to maybe be on the table. So I think it's important that, you know, that might be something where we look at.
I mean, the reason why I'm raising it is that if this becomes, and I understand you want to tie this to, you know, their performance that they've had at school, but if we're faced with cutting a math teacher versus a study hall period, I'd rather cut the study hall period if there's a way that it offers more people leaving.
And I think when we created the criteria for this, what we were thinking of is also making sure that kids don't become credit deficient or get too close to the edge, that if they opted out and took one less class, they don't have a safety net. So that's why we put the amount of credits in order to get them to do it, because we counted how many left they had and how much time. And then if you open up too much grade-wise, what can happen is that if students, you know, senioritis sets in and then things plummet, if there's students that don't have strong enough grades, those are the things that can happen in schools, and you end up with more kids that aren't graduating on time.
I understand. It's going to be your
yeah.
policy. It's going to be, I just
Right.
want to raise, you know.
Well, I think
As I read this, I'm pondering, you know.
one thing I have Tim working on, and we're going to talk with PMA tomorrow a little bit, is in that formula they figure out is, I mean, one thing that we have to look at when we're presenting all this information to the community is, what is the actual expenditure tied to having students take 7 classes and having students take 6 classes? I'm hoping that as an educator, the best thing is for kids to have as many opportunities to take different classes as possible. But that is something, as we go down our financial road, we might have to expand on these or eliminate that. It is true. It's subject to change.
Okay.
And have we even just opened it up? We have 18-year-olds, you know, maybe some even almost 19, senior year, that last year. Some have jobs, some are getting ready for
Right.
college. Just allow them the volition to say, I have a study hall, I want to leave. I'm ready to do something else. I think if they meet criterion and, you know, under
Right.
staff, I think it's not only a financial cut, but these are young adults, senior year.
I think it does 2 things. It keeps a track of our financial aspects, as well as providing these upperclassmen some flexibility in their personal schedule.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to old business, our final IASB resolutions. As we talked about in the committee, the whole meeting, board members, have you received anything back from board members on resolution-wise?
I forgot to send mine to it.
Okay,
I
so-
got it.
When I saw this, I said, uh-oh.
All right, so do me a
I'll get it
favor,
to you
send your
tomorrow.
resolutions to Laura, so it'll help her with voting in the delegate assembly.
Sorry about
When do you
that.
want it by, Laura?
Before the meeting.
So, what's your drop dead date?
I'll email it to you
What's your
tomorrow.
drop dead?
Well, I'm doing the workshop on Friday, so Thursday night would be preferable.
So,
Next
November,
Thursday.
let's put November 16th,
Take one,
Okay.
pass it.
all right?
down.
They have to turn in by?